Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. 2 days convention of the All India Congress Committee has begun in Ahmedabad today, and this is for the first time in 64 years that Congress top brass leaders are meeting in Gujarat. Now, today was an extended CWC meeting where several resolutions were adopted, but those resolutions will be made public tomorrow. What we are also told is that there have been deliberations on national matters, internal organization, preparations for elections, foreign policy, etc. And also, what was emphasized was the legacy of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Gandhi, and Nehru. But the big question is this 2 days convention of Congress all about reclaiming Gujarat, which is BJP's stronghold? Second, what is the ideological message of this Gujarat session? And the third most notable point on which Mr. K.C. Venugopal was also questioned today during the press conference was that why is Priyanka Gandhi missing from this 2 days session? Because there have been several reports that her role might be elevated. She would be, there are reports that she might be made in charge, but yes, we cannot confirm that for now. But there are several reports saying that she could be given a larger role. So we'll come back to the discussion as to what are the larger takeaways of the first day of the extended CWC session. Joining me now is a political editor of the Federal, Puneet Nicholas Yadav. Thank you so much, Puneet, for joining. We have a senior deputy editor from the Frontline, TK Rajlakshmi. Thank you so much, Rajlakshmi, for joining. And I'll begin with Puneet. Puneet, what was the first day's session all about? Apparently, some resolutions were adopted, but they will be made public tomorrow. So, what are the big takeaways of the first day?
Well, thanks, Nilu. See, as is always the case with AICC sessions, you have an extended CWC meeting on day one. Prior to the CWC, whenever a session is called, you have various committees that the Congress president forms. So one of those, the most important one, is always the drafting committee. The drafting committee is basically tasked that when the session starts with the extended CWC meeting, those resolutions are placed before the CWC for discussions. And then they are based on the discussions, they may be tweaked a bit, and some changes here and there are made. They are adopted, final drafting is done, and the final drafts of the resolutions are then presented the next day of the session, which is the final day. So, in case of the Ahmedabad session, today, the draft resolutions prepared by the drafting committee would have been discussed. One of those resolutions, which is specifically, on the issues of that the Congress has very nicely sort of tied with the legacy of Sardar Patel, that resolution has been made public today. The other resolutions, I'm told that there will be two, possibly even three, but two certainly, a political resolution and a resolution on socio-economic issues. Those will be, they would be, I think the party leadership, after the discussion of today, would be giving final touches to those two drafts. And so those will be made public tomorrow and released to the press tomorrow after the AICC session concludes, I believe, around 5 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. So the discussions in the CWC today would have been extensive on each of the resolutions. One, as I said, on Sardar Patel, which has already been released to the press, which deals with various issues, both sort of kind of putting a light on the historical facts connected with Sardar Patel and the Congress party and Sardar Patel's bonhomie, his camaraderie with Pandit Nehru, and then, of course, current issues of farmer unrest, how the BJP has treated farmers, how the BJP's economic policy has kind of helped crony capitalists. All those issues have, and then, of course, communal harmony. Those are issues which, in one way or the other, were also connected with Sardar Patel, have been, in the current context, raised by the Congress, included in the resolution, and sort of tied with the legacy of Sardar Patel, with the Congress basically saying that while the BJP tries to appropriate the legacy of Patel, its actions while in government are an assault on each and everything that Sardar Patel stood for. If you read the resolution that was released today, that talks about how about the stellar role that Patel played in uniting India. After independence, getting all the states to sign the instruments of accession and be part of the republic. Uh, in contrast, the resolution talks about how the BJP today is creating a north-south divide, is creating a language divide, is creating is a kind of socio-cultural divide, polarization, all of that. Then it talks about Patel's role during the freedom struggle on with the Bardoli Satyagraha and farmer agitations and all of that. And then it comes to the current context of how the farmers and the farm labor, the farmers have been treated by the BJP with the three farm laws which have been repealed now, the hollow promises on guarantee for MSP, all those issues. So the resolution adopted and made public today deals with that. The more substantive issues of politics, social issues, economic issues, those will be dealt with in the resolution that will be released to the media tomorrow. They have already been discussed. And then, of course, what in my view, would matter more, although there's no resolution to that effect, at least as of now, to my best of my knowledge. But with regard to organizational matters of the Congress, what the Congress needs to do in terms of course correction, because that is where the big questions come in. Today, in the briefing after the CWC meeting, the Congress GSO, the General Secretary Organization, K.C. Venugopal, as well as Jairam Ramesh, talked about the resolution that was passed in December last year at the Belagavi session of the Congress, where they talked about dedicating 2025 to organization building, organization revival. And there was a pledge taken even back then for a complete overhaul of the Congress. Now, which is basically a reiteration of what the Congress had said 3 years ago at its Udaipur session, and that Navsankalp Udaipur declaration that they passed at that session, where it was not just claims of organizational revamp, but the Udaipur declaration gave an actionable plan for that revamp. 3 years down the line, that plan has still not been implemented. So tomorrow, will there be any signs of that? We'll have to wait and see.
But Puneet, as far as empowering the district committee presidents is concerned, we saw Sachin Pilot coming out and briefing the media
Yes.
in the afternoon. And so is there more emphasis on how the powers will be decentralized now, given the fact that Sachin Pilot came out in between to talk about it exclusively? So does it really look like that some kind of a visible change is happening at the district committee level? Is Congress really serious about doing it at that level?
Uh, well, of course, it seems like, because in the run up to the AICC session, you had these 3-day meetings that the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and Mr. Rahul Gandhi, both of them, had with over 800 DCC presidents from across the country. And during those discussions, a lot of things were said with regard to how the DCCs need to be empowered, and the only revival for the Congress, a meaningful revival for the Congress, would be possible if it works its way grassroots upwards, instead of being top heavy and just directing the office bearers down the ladder to do what the high command has told them to do. So in that sense, it certainly seems to be a good move of empowering the DCCs. I'm told there was even a proposal to kind of amend the constitution to make a very clear sort of proposal on what would be the powers of the DCCs now. I don't know whether that eventually happens tomorrow or not, but certainly there are proposals for empowering the DCCs. Rahul, in fact, wants the DCC presidents to be present when candidates are shortlisted for assembly elections, local body elections, even parliament elections. How much of that is actually possible? One will have to wait and see how much of that actually, the party does. We'll have to wait. But there's the other aspect to it, which is it's all right to say that the Congress wants to empower its DCC presidents. But you see, the problem with the Congress is that the organizational rot runs so deep. The DCC presidents aren't appointed, just out of nowhere. They are appointed on recommendations of of the same senior leaders of the party in the state. The CLP leader, the PCC presidents, different factional leaders, who Rahul now believes by empowering the DCCs can now be reined in. But if you look at it in a more practical way, will a DCC president who has been, say, appointed on the recommendation of, an X or a Y or a Z leader at the state level, after being appointed, go against that leader? So, or do you have an alternative mechanism to identify good DCC chiefs? Those are more practical questions for which the Congress leadership will have to find answers. It's all right to say that we want to empower the DCCs. It's certainly a good move in that sense. But how it actually, pans out on the ground, I have my suspicions.
I'll come to the other political questions, but the Rajlakshmi, to you, the
Yeah.
very fact that they are trying to emphasize a lot on Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and everybody knows that there is a big statue of unity. How BJP was trying to appropriate Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Now, this extra emphasis on Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, along with Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, do you think that Congress, in a way, is trying to reclaim that legacy of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel along with Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, so that they don't give BJP another chance to talk about that. Look, they had disdain for Mahatma, they had disdain for Vallabhbhai Patel. So is that move directed towards? I mean, is
Yeah.
that an effort in that direction?
It is to a large extent also, because I think the Congress has always been quite upset about the fact, not just the Congress, but I think most secular parties have been upset of the fact that the BJP has tried to appropriate both Sardar Patel as well as Mahatma Gandhi for its own ends, to whatever purpose. So this meeting that is taking place in Gujarat, over the next 2 days, it coincides with the 150th birth anniversary of Sardar Patel, and also the 100th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's presidentship of the Congress. And then also it's also a kind of a symbolism, because Congress has been out of Gujarat for, I think, the last 30 odd years. So by doing it in Gujarat, right, it's also a show of strength. It's also a show of organizational strength. Of course, to what extent is the organization really substantive, is something that would get revealed, only in the days to come. As Puneet also said, to what extent, are the DCC chiefs going to be actually sort of empowered when the shots would be called from elsewhere, so also all those things are there, but other than that, I think coming on the heels of various debacles that the Congress has faced in the recent past, this was important, and also to hold it in a state which is the home state of the PM, which is the home state of the Home Minister. Okay, so it is a statement of sorts, in more than one sense. Now, in fact, coming back to the resolution which was shared today, it's very interestingly titled, ideological struggle to pave the way for a new direction. Okay, now of course, it does spell out its ideological position, the Congress, on some things, but but not everything. For instance, when you say about a new direction, it has to be spelled out. For instance, what is a new direction? I mean, in fact, the resolution makes comparisons between the British Raj and between the BJP Raj. Okay, by saying that what the British did is what the BJP is doing today, right? I mean, whether it oppressed farmers by sort of levying taxes on it, or whether it's oppressed the working classes, and sort of whittled away labor rights and labor laws. So the BJP is also doing that. Then, I mean, how the British, plundered resources. Now, all this is said in the context of Gujarat. Okay, the resolution, curiously, is it does not seem to have an all India character. I mean, I felt, perhaps I could be wrong, but it seems to be very much specific to what's happening in Gujarat. The- the plundering of resources in Gujarat. Okay, for instance, now it's an all India phenomenon. It's not really sort of confined to Gujarat alone. And yes, of course, the it also refers to the whole thing about the BJP's Fissiparis politics, as opposed to Patel's unifying politics, and also this thing that the wedge that seemed to have been made between Patel and Nehru by the BJP, or else the portrayal that a wedge existed between Patel and Nehru is also going to be used as a campaign, campaign point. Is going. I mean, it's going to be dispelled, among the public by the party. To what extent does this really serve a purpose? I mean, I do not know. I mean, other than of I mean, other than being of academic interest. But I think what the resolution lacks essentially in terms of direction is to spell out the alternative direction. What exactly is a form of alternative politics that the Congress plans to pursue. You know, I mean, it also has to give uh, spell out the state of affairs as it exists in the country today. I think it was a very sketchily drafted resolution. If tomorrow's resolutions, I mean, are going to be on similar lines, then I think it will be an exercise in futility. I mean, here I think the Congress should also spell out, as to what its approach and attitude is going to be towards other secular and like-minded parties, and in fact, what is the character of the BJP as such. The CPM just had its Congress. In Madurai, where the whole ideological question is debated. It's not something that is done very superficially. So how are you going to deal with the principal opposition party in the country? So your ideological approach has to be clear, because I think it's that ideological approach which will shape your organizational approach also. I mean, how do you strengthen your organization? I mean, if you're not sort of clear, ideologically. For instance, in Nilu, it has been a talking point as to how both Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka stayed away, from the debate on the Waqf. So on the one hand, you have these kind of signals, and on the other hand, if you say that we're going to fight communalism, okay, and that we're committed to secular India. So, but these things do not convey the correct perception.
No,
Uh,
so Rajlakshmi, to you, what does it
yeah,
appear like? Does it look like a cosmetic exercise? Because each time we see an AICC session like this with 2 days affair, some drafts come out, there is a
yeah,
media briefing, and then Congress slides back into that same state of sleep, and then all of a sudden there is an election and we see that nothing has apparently worked for Congress.
yeah.
So do these AICC sessions now look like a cosmetic exercise and they're not doing what they should be doing?
I do feel so, because this has been the complaint against the Congress for a very long time, that it is not seen on ground. I mean, for instance, petrol prices have been raised, have been
Yeah.
high. Gas cylinder prices have gone up. I would have thought that today there would be protests in the country.
Hmm.
Given the fact that the Congress is the largest opposition party, there should have been some kind of protest somewhere. You have to be seen on ground. But if you are not articulating the issues of people, it's not going to you are not going to make any gains, electorally, even if you empower the the district Congress presidents. You ask them to raise resources. If you ask them to be sort of vigilant and everything, now I'm saying that the framework is missing. The ideological framework in which they are expected to work, expected to operate, is missing. So it could well be a cosmetic exercise, Neelu,
Right.
because ultimately we see
What
that
is,
after this, yeah,
yeah,
after such meetings are over, they're back to their factional ways. They're back to
exactly.
factionalism. The next election, we'll see what happens in Bihar. To what extent
Right.
are they able to strike some kind of alliance with their like-minded parties, or even then the Congress is going to be a junior partner, and
Right.
not really be able to convince the importance of putting up a front against the BJP. I mean, even as every party strengthens itself, independently in every state, right?
Right. But Puneet, like what Raj Lakshmi was saying, that the ideological framework is missing. The ideology is clear. They know that they have to follow the secular principles. They have to fight against communal politics. But how will Congress devise this framework within which it has to function? So, firstly, what does it need to do? Does it need to revamp the organizational structure? Like many people are not happy with KCB, many people are not happy with Jairam. Then there are a lot of dissensions within the party. Now, till all those things are resolved, how will the party get a clarity? Because even though there is a cosmetic event like this, there's a lot of cribbing inside, and we all know, you also cover the party. There's so much of cribbing happening amongst each other as far as the leaders of Congress are concerned. So, how will Congress really get a clarity? And then I'm going to ask you that big question, that why Priyanka was missing. Yes, Puneet.
Well, and firstly, I think we are sort of jumping the gun a bit here because the actual political resolution is to be moved tomorrow. So
Okay.
we can perhaps wait. I mean, with the Congress, we've all waited for so long. We can perhaps wait for another day and see what the political resolution actually spells out. Okay. I don't quite agree with TK on the issue of today's resolution being too specific to Gujarat. I don't think it's very. I think it's a fairly well worded uh, resolution, quite sharp in its tenor at some places. But
If I'm not mistaken, Preet, did Jairam or KCB mention specifically about Gujarat, that yes, we will deal specifically with Gujarat? I remember having heard him on that
yeah,
bit.
he did say that there will be one specific resolution on Gujarat, which I think
Gujarat.
would basically be dedicating or rededicating the party cadre and struggle for winning Gujarat. But
Okay.
the resolution today is more to do, I mean, since they are in Gujarat, and of course, Sardar Patel's 150th birth anniversary year, uh, him also being from Gujarat, all those things. So there's a lot of symbolism at play in this session, with centenary year of the Mahatma's presidency of the party, 150th year of Sardar Patel. Whether the people of Gujarat want to uh, sort of recognize Gujarat with the combination of Modi and Shah, or the combination of Mahatma and Patel. So all of that is there, but specifically on the resolution, I think the resolution talks about national issues, even like the one today. It talks about Narega, it talks about crony capitalism, it talks about communal tensions, polarization, all of that. It lays out a sort of slogan, which is perhaps an extension, one could say, or regurgitation of Bharat Jodo, where it talks about shed hate, unite India. So all of that is spelled out. Perhaps in greater detail, you would see in the resolutions that are adopted tomorrow. So I would, maybe wait till tomorrow to say whether, the political resolution, the socio-economic resolution are also, sort of without any clear direction, or they are much sharper than the one that's come out today. But today's resolution per se, I don't see it as a poorly or a drafted or a weak resolution. Now, on the issue the question that you asked on, how the party revives itself, and this whole question of organizational revamp, is that the first step? I would certainly say that that would be the first step, the logical step to take, because see, ultimately, uh, you know to put it very bluntly, I don't think we would be sitting and dissecting the Congress's ideology, or the Congress's, whether it has a alternative vision to the BJP's or not, if the Congress was winning elections. You know, if the Congress was on the ascendant, none of this beyond academic circles would have mattered. It matters today because suddenly there's a fault with everything that the Congress does, because the Congress is not winning. Now, to come back on a winning trajectory, you need to have your organization in place. The whole issue of organizational revamp, as I pointed out in my opening, remark, has now been, lying unaddressed since the Udaipur Declaration, which was 3 years ago, May 2022. Since then, and that declaration had pretty good ideas. It talked about having a separate department within the party. If I'm not mistaken, it was called the Insight Group, or a Public Insight Group, or something, which was basically meant to do very periodic, cyclical feedback. Give feedback to the central leadership collected from the grassroots. So that the party can, apply the correctives as and when necessary and respond to the issues on the ground. That insight group was never formed. It talked about creating a separate department for election strategy. I think it was supposed to be called the Election Planning Department or the Election Strategy Department. That never took shape. Although, I'm told that once the aicc session is over, that is going to be the first thing to be expedited, with the possibility of Priyanka leading it. This is what I'm given to understand. But again, with the Congress, one never knows. We hear a lot of things. 99% of them never really,
But
materialize.
why was she not present during this session? Any idea, Puneet? Because there was a question asked today of
As far as I know, she is not in the country. She's traveling with a relative who is receiving medical attention abroad in the US. This is what I am given to understand, and this is something that had been informed to the party leadership almost a month ago. And in fact, even during the Lok Sabha, when Parliament was in session, uh, we even reporters, we only came to know when the Waqf bill is going to be discussed and taken up for discussion, on like 2 days before it was actually listed. So, but Priyanka had asked, when members of parliament are not present during a session, they have to formally write to the presiding officer and seek leave of the house. So that letter from Priyanka's side to seek leave of the house had been sent to Om Birla at the start of the session, when the date of the Waqf bill discussion was not even known. So, that I think needs to be clear, that, I think we may be reading too much into her absence, and, alluding some or the other, motive there. But this was known that she will not perhaps be present. Now, of course, one can question, why couldn't she cancel, and, was this more
No, but
important, or was that more important?
is there a surety, Puneet, on the front that Priyanka is all set to get a larger role, an organizational role in the party? Is that a
I
surety?
think I just answered that a while back, Neelu, because from what I have heard, once the election planning department, or whatever they choose to call it, is put in place, she might be heading that department.
Okay, okay. So,
What I certainly know is that she's not going to be made in charge of a state again.
okay, okay. Okay, so where does it leave the things, Rajlakshmi? And I'll end with your comments only. Uh, as far as of course,
I think
lots will happen tomorrow. But what would you say, really say, on the first day of this Congress convention?
I think all ideological, organizational including electoral issues. They start and they end with the Gandhi siblings. I mean, it seems, there doesn't seem to be any other leader in sight that the Congress can really bring forth and have, and who has a mass credibility in the party, and so it all comes down to these two three people, and I mean, even if they have of course, they have something called, war room, Puneet. Every year they would have a war room. Okay, no, whatever,
Yeah.
whether they're warring amongst themselves or they're warring in terms of a strategy, one really doesn't know.
That is mostly the case.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
exactly. So, so ultimately they lose the war. Yeah. So I think this is. I mean, I just hope this is not, another sort of vacuous exercise that we've all seen. I mean, as Puneet said, since Udaipur, it's been continuing. When Mr. Kharge took over, there was again this talk of, organizational revamp and organizational reform, and a lot of emphasis was given on the building the organization. But the organization has to be seen on ground. It is. I think it's a two-way process. If you do some ground level action, that infuses the organization in turn. By I think merely passing, I think, resolutions in highfalutin places can't really infuse that kind of energy into the organization unless it's seen and acting on the ground also. So that, I mean, it's a symbiotic thing essentially. So it has to take place. Yeah.
You
So
see,
we'll,
Neelu, I'll just add one thing to it.
yes, yeah,
How the Congress functions organizationally, let me tell you. One anecdote. So in early February, or mid-February or so, when the party decided that this meeting with the DCC chiefs is to take place, so they said that there will be, these meetings will happen in three batches: 27th and 28th of May, and then 3rd of April. Okay, and that the Congress president and Rahul Gandhi will both be meeting all DCC chiefs, uh, on these 3 days in 3 different batches. When this announcement was made, out of the over 800 odd DCC presidents who finally turned up for the meetings, over 100 of those DCC chiefs had not even been appointed,
See.
and including at least 3 states where the DCC chiefs had not been which was pointed out to the leadership after they made the announcement of the meeting with the DCC chiefs, that in at least 2 or 3 odd states the DCC chiefs had not been appointed for the last 2 to 3 or 4 years, and they went ahead and made an announcement. So then eventually the meetings were also rescheduled, one on 27th of May, then on the 3rd and the 4th of April. And and then hurriedly the DCC presidents for Uttar Pradesh, a state like Uttar Pradesh, did not have any DCC presidents.
Imagine.
And then they were appointed. DCC presidents in certain other states were appointed, so that at least when the meeting is called, there is representation from those states. This is the state of affairs of the Congress organization.
true, true. So we'll have to wait and watch what happens tomorrow. That's the second day and the final day of this All India Convention of the Congress. So we'll see what resolutions are made public tomorrow. Thank you so much, Puneet and Rajalakshmi, for joining on the Federal.
Thank you.